why do you think people are moving away from religion and are more open to spirituality than they've ever been?
Yeah, I mean, it's really kind of interesting, especially in the US, but I would imagine that Australia probably shares some similar patterns, which is actually, you can make a case, like, particularly outside of Europe, at least we're speaking in the kind of the Judeo-Christian traditions
Yes.
now, not so much Confucianism or Buddhism or Hinduism, the kind of mishmash of a whole bunch of belief systems that's loosely Hinduism. Um, Actually, like, America has always hated authority structures, has
Mm.
always sent, privileged direct experience, and has always, I mean, like, if you look through the 17th, 18th, 19th centuries, there were several great awakenings. One of them, with the second great awakening, was in like 1803. There was one in like Kentucky, in the mountain, hillbilly Appalachia, like in the mountains, where they had preachers. There was like 10,000 people there. They stayed up all night. They were getting hammered. They were fornicating in the forest. The preachers were getting mobbed. They had to build scaffolds. It looked like a rave. I mean, they were the equivalent of DJs. I mean, I gave a talk like this at Burning Man. I was like, I just described that event, but didn't say when it happened. And it was
Yeah.
100% one-to-one Burning Man. It was like August. It was hot. It was this. It was that. And then I was like, no, this was 250 years ago. you know, so you could say that yearning for experiential, immersive spirituality is actually one of the core currents of, at a minimum, the
Mm.
American spiritual and cultural traditions, and then by extension and expansion around the world. So I think that yearning, and the Eleusinian mysteries in ancient Greece, which persisted for 2,000 years, which is just insane, right? That's,
Yeah.
we think, oh, we've got a 4-year government cycle and then it changes parties, like 2,000 years, different empires, different everythings, um, was, arguably one of the seed beds of Western civilization. Pythagoras, Plato, Socrates, Cicero, you name it, all got baptized in those waters. So our yearning to know beyond a shadow of a doubt that which we know in our bones to be truth
Mm.
is something I think that we're pretty hardwired for. I mean, even macaque monkeys will pause at an especially beautiful sunset, and they will stop fighting, they will stop fornicating, they will stop foraging, right? All the strongest drivers, they will pause to take in the sunset. So
Mm.
you're like, holy smokes, right? So awe, right? Like yearning for the numinous
Yeah.
is arguably just baked into our skulls.
How do you envisage hope? A lot of people obviously have felt quite hopeless during this time of COVID
Yeah.
and lockdowns and the world just changing rapidly. And there is a sense of those who have that hope. And then you go back to like Holocaust survivors and you hear
Mhm.
people, like Elie Wiesel and,
Mhm.
many others
Yeah.
who talk about how it was hope that got them through. But then you can also look at hope as being something that hasn't quite happened. So it's like you're hoping for something that isn't real. What are your views on hope and as a society of people, how we use it to best get us through these tougher times?
Yeah. I mean, I think that question of hope and how do we have hope that's durable,
Yeah.
is really important. Because I often think of, like, like how, like, hit vampire movies in the last couple of decades, some scared person will like hold up their fingers or they'll throw garlic at him. And then the cool vampire's like, are you kidding? Like, that was an old wives' tale. That doesn't really work, and then they're like, whoops, we're really screwed now. So we don't want those, right? We don't want the garlic cloves and the finger crosses.
Yeah.
We want hope that's actually going to do the trick, right? Against the demons in the darkness. And I think one of the best examples of this is Admiral Jim Stockdale was the
Mm.
highest ranking POW in Vietnam. And he noticed something while I think he was in prison. He was in a North Vietnamese POW camp for, I think, 9 years. And so he saw a lot and he went through a lot. And what he noticed was that the pessimists in the camp, so the people whose hope was broken right out of the gates, didn't survive. And that
Yeah.
makes total sense. But the other thing he noticed was the optimists didn't make it either. because they were like, oh, we'll be home for Christmas or Easter or summer or July 4th, whatever. We're going to be out soon, guys. And then when those dates would come and go and they hadn't got the thing they were hoping for, they'd just fold.
Yes.
And he actually ended up coining that, or the term got coined around his insight, which was the Stockdale paradox, which is that to really have durable hope, you need to be ruthlessly realistic about short-term reality while remaining relentlessly optimistic about long-term possibility.
Mm.
And I think one of the simplest things we can do is expand that, because like in the last 50 years, we've all been very well conditioned in the industrial, rich, developed world to be, incredibly acquisitive consumers and rational egoic identities, meaning like it's all about me and I want mine now, and it's all about getting stuff and like my satisfaction. And we've been primed and trained to think of ourselves that way and to act that way.
Yeah.
But if we think about it, it's a little bit like if you've ever, like a short Land Cruiser versus a long, limousine or
Yeah.
something, right? If you're going down the highway in a Land Cruiser, it's bumpy as hell, right? Because it's got a short little wheelbase. That's kind of like us. Like that's our time frame. It's 80 years and I want it all to happen now. And it's very bumpy when we hit rocks and potholes. But if you're in a long stretch limo, right, you can be hauling down that road and then each bump gets blended out over that longer wheelbase. And the same is true for us in our families and what we consider as our part or our life. So basically, and there's been fascinating studies that show that like children who know their grandparents, who go back 3 generations instead of just one, are less likely to be anxious or depressed. They do better on test scores. They complete more high school and university. They do all the things and they handle adversity better than kids who are just, only child, just nuclear parents, no extended kin. And of course that makes sense. It's how we've always done the human thing. But when everybody moves away from their parents and you're hopscotching around the world for jobs and you pack your parents off in nursing homes because it's too much of a hassle to have them in the home, and aunts and uncles you never meet or you only do once a
Mm.
year, that kind of a thing. We realize, oh, okay, we have been fragmented into our weakest units where there's epidemics of loneliness, there's tons of narcissism and outrage of I want mine and I want it now. And I think one of the biggest things for us to get that kind of hope that Jim Stockdale was talking about, that paradox of like
Mm.
pay attention to what's happening now, don't put lipstick on that pig, but remain relentlessly hopeful, is can I expand back out to 7 generations? Can I look 3 behind me, and can I truly honor my parents,
Mm.
grandparents, and great grandparents that got me here?
Yeah.
That almost certainly had a rougher go of it than I did, right? With few exceptions. Can I really give it up for them? And can I look 3 ahead to my children, their children, and their children? So that my part isn't no longer about me getting mine now. It's about me carrying this torch, right, through my family as far as I possibly fucking can. And the Talmud, the Hebrew book, has a beautiful phrase for that, which is we're not expected to finish the work, nor are we excused from it.
Yeah.
And that paradox, right? It's kind of the same paradox, right? Like it's like, oh my gosh, this is overwhelming. And suck it up, fat kid. You got to try anyway.